have been a car seat technician for 2013 is when I got certified, so that's coming up on 6 years now. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about how to choose the right car seat for your child, and then I'm going to be checking car seats and my display board. I thought I was going to be doing my speech at my table, not over here, so my display board actually has my notes on it.
Do you want me to grab it?
It's taped to the... I taped it down because of the lens. So I'm going to basically just talk. Oops.
Maybe just a tad bit, yeah. How about the noise?
The best car seats for your child is going to be the one that fits your car, that fits your child, that fits your budget, and that you're going to use correctly every single time. And the stages of car seats is going to be rear facing, and there are two different types of rear facing seats. One is called the rear-facing infant-only seat, or rear-facing infant seat, also called a rear-facing only seat. It doesn't change in any mode. It just rear faces. This is the one that you see parents carrying around by the handle a lot. The other seats that rear face are called rear-facing convertibles. These ones go rear-facing for younger kids and then turn forward-facing when the kid is ready to forward-face. And then you have forward-facing convertibles, and you have combination seats that don't rear-face, but they turn from a forward-facing harness seat into a booster and sometimes into a backless booster seat. And then after that, you have belt positioning booster seats, and then you have the adult seat belt. Now, rear-facing seats, it used to be that we thought as soon as a child had head control, they could turn forward, but we know now that that's not true. And what we know is that spinal development just isn't there for a 1-year-old to forward face yet. They don't have the strength in their spine to withstand a serious crash without being internally decapitated or paralyzed in some fashion. So what manufacturers are doing now is making convertibles that will rear face to 4 or 5 years old, so that kids have that spinal development and they can go forward facing without being injured too bad in a crash. Because obviously we don't want our kids to be injured at all, right? And on my little brochures, you have pictures of each of the seats, each of the modes of seating, using my daughters as models. Stage 1 is from birth to at least as close to age 4 as possible. And this is because spinal development, spinal ossification just hasn't happened until between ages 3 and 6. I'm going to keep moving away from the amp here. Ossification is the process where the vertebrae actually become solid rings of bone, which they're not at birth, to make it easier to pass through the birth canal. So this thing that nature has decided, hey, we're going to make birth a little bit easier, is what makes it so dangerous for babies and small toddlers to forward face yet. And the reason for that is simply when you're rear facing, the seat actually holds you and cradles the head, neck, and chest in a crash, whereas when you're forward facing, just the harness is holding back the torso. Okay, I can't move any further away from the amp. And there you go, hopefully. Yeah, I think so. All right. So obviously, and in Sweden, they never forward face harness. In Sweden, they go from rear facing to booster. And what we know about boosters is that kids need to be mature enough to be willing participants in their own safety. because a booster seat doesn't work if your kid is leaning for a toy or falling asleep sideways at the moment of your crash. So a booster seat only works to lift them up so that the seatbelt fits them longer or fits them better. It doesn't work if they're not in position. So a booster seat child needs to be mature enough to stay in that position 100% of the time. So like I said, they rear face until 4 or 5 in Sweden because it's safer, and they don't have nearly the mortality rate that we do in crashes. So I found that really interesting. It's always one of my talking points about spinal development and their standards. And then the other thing that I see a lot of parents doing is they graduate their kids from a booster seat to an adult seatbelt too soon. And the adult seatbelts are actually meant to fit an average adult male, at least 5'1". So if your kid is not 5'1" and doesn't have the torso height to fit the seatbelt properly, they really need to stay in that booster seat until the seatbelt actually does fit them. And on the back of my little brochures, and I have more if people want to go over to my table over there and get more, on the back of these brochures it has a listing of the 5 steps that they need to pass in order to sit in a seatbelt correctly. At this point, I would open up the floor to questions, and if anybody has any questions, I'm willing to answer, or I'll be checking car seats for the rest of the day. Yes?
I have a question. Okay, so what do you recommend to parents to do when kids get frustrated? And I know my boys especially, they just wanted to see out the windows and they would just freak out. So do you have any calming techniques or any ways to help kids cope with the fact that, you know what, no, you just have to, face
be backwards. There are certain seats that have lower sides so that they can see out the side window at least, and there are some that lift them up more, like the Kleck Foof lifts them up so that they can see out the back window better. But really it's more, once they're at that age, you can actually explain to them that this is safer, and you can look out the back window or teach them where they can look so they can see. I mean, my daughter knew Starbucks like the back of her hand, even rear facing. So she was able to see the drive-thru every time we pulled in, and that next thing I would know, I would hear, "Cake pop, mama, cake pop." So they start to get used to it after a while, and they realize, okay, I can still see. I don't know if that answered your question or not. Anybody else?
I might have missed this. Do you have car seats that you recommend?
It always depends on the child and the vehicle it's going to be going in, because it doesn't do you any good to have a big, huge, giant Foof in a tiny little Honda Fit. You know, so, and it's going to matter like what budget the parents have, because I'm not going to tell people to go broke buying a car seat, but I usually go over recommendations one-on-one once I see the situation.